Hello, hello, hello. The saga continues with my Mariner's Compass medallion, my Kim McLean. We are on episode 4 where I have started working on my hexagons around my center. And I'm showing you on the book when I can just show you my finished product, which is right here. And voila, one corner is all finished. Yay! So I thought when I was getting started, of course, you have to pick fabric because how can you applique if you don't have fabric? But besides that, I needed my hexagons, which I have my little packet of my little hexagons here. And my first thought when I saw the hexagons, well, okay, being a math teacher, former math teacher, I immediately started thinking about, ooh, what is the interior angle sum of a hexagon? And for those of you who are math geeks like me, you would know that it's 360 times the quantity n minus 2, where n is the number of sides. And then if you take that number and divide it by n again, it'll tell you how much each individual angle is worth, and you don't care. Okay, moving on. But math geek, hey, I couldn't help myself. A friend of mine, BFF Vanessa, had done a hexagon, the bigger hexagons, and she had in the middle of hers, there was a little hole and it made it easier to pull them out. So I thought, ooh, I'll do that too. But do I have an individual hole punch anymore? No, I looked for it. So the only one I had was my 3-hole punch. Well, you can see it didn't put it quite in the center. So, I abandoned that idea and just went for just using them like this. Anyway, so that was just a little side note. So I first, I went and I found my template plastic because I have, bits and pieces of it from back in the day when I used to use it all the time. And I cut out my guide. And I used, obviously, the opaque or see-through stuff because that lets me see my fabric if I decide that I want to align it and make them all the same. But I used I used that little guide and I traced around that with my ruler and then cut it out. And how many pairs of scissors does one sewing person need, you may ask? Well, excuse me while I reach. I used these scissors. I think they're Jim Holtz scissors anyway, but they're my all-purpose scissors. And I used those, and they're called Tonic Studios. Oh, from Tonic Studios. Anyway, so I use those to cut out my template plastic because, we don't use our fabric scissors for anything but fabric, lest you die. Or become maimed from touching my scissors and trying to use them on paper. But again, I digress. So I went ahead and I cut out my little hexagons of fabric, and I decided I'm just going to use the same center on all of mine because my colorway is, they're all going to be those kind of reddish brown colors. But of course you have to decide, do I want to, like on this particular fabric, do I want to have the same flower in the center of all of my hexagons? I don't know. I used a more densely populated fabric on my first one because I wasn't really sure how it was going to go. But I cut out all my little hexagons, and then, I had to break out the real itty bitty needles, or pins rather. Pins. There they are. See the little pins? These are the ones that I grew up on because when we were back in the day, that's the only kind of pins there were. We didn't have all these wonderful fancy pins with bees and hearts and magic pins and all this kind of stuff. But anyway, so I did my best, and I pinned my little thing on the back of my paper, and of course, it shifted. But anyway, I made it work. And I folded down all my edges, and then I basted with thread instead of glue because I don't have any glue, and I didn't want to go to the store. So back in the day, I used to do a lot of hand quilting, and so I have a boatload of this hand quilting thread, and this is the perfect thing. So as I'm basting, I'm using up my boatload of hand quilting thread. And if I ever go back to doing more hand quilting, I may rue the fact that I used all of that, but we'll see. So I had my first opportunity then to, after I got them all basted, to do my English paper piecing, which I, again, have not done a lot of that. But I was very pleased that that little whip stitch thing, it went together real well. And there, you can see my finished product. When I got this all put together and all the pieces were sewn, before I removed my basting stitches from the edge, I decided I wanted to go ahead and steam my piece. And then I removed my basting stitches, and it gave it a nice crisp edge, and I was able to stitch that without any problem whatsoever. But so now that's on there. I have 3 more corners to go before I move on to big, really cool applique stuff with more tools. Yay! But speaking of tools, what did I use? Well, I already told you I used my template plastic, and I used my pens, my little itty bitty pens, and my great number 2 pencil. Everybody needs a number 2 pencil. And as a math teacher, you always write in pencil. You don't write in pen. But I use my fine grit sandpaper. Again, another thing that I learned from back in the day, or I learned back in the day. Again, everything is back in the day. But the nice thing about it, if you've never used it, is that when you put your fabric on top of the sandpaper, it keeps it from sliding, so that when you go to, trace around that, the fabric is not moving, which I think is just handy dandy, and I love it. And I've obviously had this piece of sandpaper for quite some time because I just don't use it that often. And then, talking about scissors, my Ginger scissors. Again, when I was cutting out my hexagons in my fabric, I used my Gingers, and my mother gave me these, had to have been 30 years ago. And brother, this is the pair. Don't you even touch these, okay? This is not the touchy. If you were to use these, I would be okay with that. Multi-purpose scissors, fabric scissors, no touchy. So then I have my, I also have my little Tula Pink tweezers, which aren't these the cutest? I just love these, my little Tula Pink tweezers. And that just helps me grip that, my hexagon paper and pull it out much easier. And I think that may, oh no, wait a minute. Oh, this is really cool. When I went to go line up my hexie here in the corner, I lined up from the point here to the corner there, and I used my Creative Grid seam thing. I don't know what they really call it, but anyway, I just loved it. And so I was able to line up the seams there with the corner and the point. Yay! So anyway, just all kinds of really cool tools being used in this project. And now I'm going to go and try and get those last 3 corners done. And then I'm going to get into the big mambo jambo, oh my gosh, pieces of applique. I'll see ya on episode 5.